Good day everyone and welcome back to our channel. For today's video, we are going to factor out the sum and difference of two cubes. By the way, I am Ma'am Coren, your teacher for today. In the previous discussion, we already have the common monomial factoring and difference of two squares. For this lesson, we have another binomial algebraic expression, but the terms are considered in the cube. So before we have any discussion, let us recall about getting the cube and cube root of a number. In the illustration given, let us complete it by getting the cube root and cube of a number. Say for example, 1 cube. So what is 1 cube? To do this, we multiply 1 thrice by itself. So that will be 1 times 1 times 1, which is actually equivalent to 1, correct. How about getting the cube root of a number? Yes, you must think of a number wherein when it is multiplied by itself thrice, the number will give us 8. And what is that number? Correct, that is 2. Since we have 2 times 2, 4 times 2 is 8. So we write here 2 cubed. How about 3 cubed? 3 times 3, 9 times 3, yes, it's 27. How about 64? Any number multiplied by itself thrice will give us 64? You're right, that is 4. So we write 4 cubed is equal to 64. How about 5 cubed? 5 times 5, 125 times 5 is 125. Next one, 216. Will you kindly give us the cube root of 216? Yes, that is 6 cubed. How about 7 cubed? 7 times 7, 49 times 7. Yes, it's 343. And then lastly, we have 512. What is a cube root of 512? Yes, that is equivalent to 8 cubed. So I guess you already refreshed your lessons previously about cube root and cube of a number. So let us have the sum and difference of two cubes. Let x and y be real numbers, variables, and algebraic expressions. So let us have the sum of two cubes. This is the sum of two cubes. Notice that the given binomial terms are both in the third power, and then the symbol between them is an addition sign. So the answer or the factors are the quantity x plus y, which is actually the cube root of the first term plus the cube root of the last term, times the trinomial, and then the trinomial is composed of the square of the first term minus the sign change, the product of the first and then the last term. Then lastly, we have the square of the last term. So do you have any idea for the difference of two cubes? Correct. We simply change the sign. So the sign between the binomial given is actually negative, and the answer in the binomial term is also negative. But for the middle term, it interchanged into positive. Do not forget those symbols since we cannot cancel out the terms if we multiply this one with the wrong factors. Actually, it can be written as first term and last term. That's why for you to be able to get familiarized with this one. So we can have first term cube plus the last term cube is equal to the quantity first term plus the last term times the quantity first term squared minus first product of the first and the last term plus the square of the last term. So for the difference of two cubes, that is simply cube of the first term minus cube of the last term is actually equivalent to the quantity first term minus the last term times the quantity first term squared plus product of the first and then the last and then the square of the last term. So let us try with the following examples. So let us try this first example. I have here a cube plus 64. So this is the sum of two cubes. So let us write the first term, cube plus the last term cube is actually equivalent to, yes, first term, simply copy the sign for the binomial factor, times the quantity, the square of the first term, minus, yes, that will be minus. Let us erase this one. So we have minus the product of the first and the last plus the square of the last term. So with this, we can have a cube plus 64. Let us get the cube root of the first term, which is a cube. What is the cube root of a cube? Yes, that is 8. How about the cube root of 64? Yes, so remember or recall a while ago. So this is 4. And then for the trinomial factor, we square the first term, which is a. Yes, that will give us a squared. First term times the last term. So we multiply a and 4. What is a times 4? Yes, we simply have them in one term since we do not have, or one number is a variable and then the other one is a numerical coefficient. How about L, or the last term squared? So that is 4 squared, which is 16. So there you have it. The factors of a cubed plus 64 is actually the quantity a plus 4 times the quantity a squared minus 4a plus 16. We have the correct answer. So let us have the second example. So we have here 8b cubed minus 27c cubed. So this time, this is a difference of two squares. So let us have first term minus, or first term cube minus the last term cube is actually equivalent to first term minus the last term times the quantity first term squared plus first term and the last term plus the last term squared. This is not a tongue twister. This is a pattern that we must remember in getting the sum and difference of two cubes. So we have here 8b cubed. So we have 8b cubed is a minus 27c cubed. So let us get the cube root of the first term, which is 8b cubed. What is the cube root of 8? Yes, that is 2. So we simply write 2. We forget the equal sign here. So we have 2. And then b cubed, it is simply b. We divide it by 3. That's why the exponent becomes 1. For the last term, it's negative 27. So we have here, yes, it's 3c. For our trinomial factor, we simply square the first term. What is the square of 2b? Do not forget to square also the numerical coefficient. So we have here 4b squared plus, we change sign, so that is 2 times 3 will give us 6, and then bc. We combine the variables. For the last term, we have 3c. So the square of 3c is actually 9. Yes, 9c squared. So there you have it. This is the square or the factors of 8b cubed minus 27c cubed. And we got the correct answer once again. For our third example, let us have 8e cubed f to the 6th, or there is another exponent f to the 6th minus 125g cubed. So again, this is a difference of two squares. So we have first term cube minus last term cube. It's actually equivalent to, yes, first term minus the last term times the quantity first term cube plus, no, this should be what? Squared only since we already have a cube. Plus first term times the last term plus last term squared. Now, we have the given 8e cubed after the 6 minus 125g cubed. So what is the cube root of f, or the first term, which is 8? So cube root of 8 is equal to 2. Cube root of a cube, yes, that is e. How about f to the 6? Since in getting the cube root of exponent, we simply divide it by the root that we are going to get. Say for example, square root, we divide it by 2. This time, since this is cube root, we divide it by 3. So we have 6 divided by 3 will give us 2. So we have f squared. How about 125 cube root? Yes, that is 5g. So we have a very useful recall a while ago. And then for the trinomial factor, we have f squared. So we simply square the first term. So that is 4. Do not forget the numerical coefficient. E squared, correct. And then f, since this is 2, we multiply it also by 2, which is 4. Plus first term and the last term. So we have here 2 times 5 will give us 10. This should be positive since we do not have too much or big space. I'll be writing here. So we have 10 what? E f squared g. We simply copy the variables together with its exponent. And then lastly, we square the last term, which is 5g. So that will give us 25g squared. So the factors of the given is actually quantity 2e f squared minus 5g times the quantity 4e squared f to the 4th plus 10ef squared g plus 25g squared. So there you have it. That is how we factor out cube or difference of two cubes. Let us have the next example. It's x to the 4th minus 8x. Do you think there are difference of two cubes? X is raised to 4, which is actually not in a third power, as well as this x here. How can we get the factor of x to the 4th minus 8x? Yes, previously we have the common monomial factoring. In common monomial factoring, it can be seen that x is actually a common factor of the binomial term. So first, let us have the common factor, which is x. And then we have here x to the 4th. So since we already move out x, that will give us x cubed minus, since we already got x here, so we have 8. To verify our factors, actually this is not factored completely, we can still have x times x cubed, which will give us x to the 4th, and then x times negative 8 will give us negative 8x. So we have the correct factors. Then since this is already difference of two cubes, we can now get the factors by applying the pattern we discussed a while ago. You need the pattern. So let us continue this one. So first, minus the last. Yes. So cube root of x cubed, that is x. Cube root of 8, correct, 2. And then for our trinomial, yes, square of the first plus product of the first and then the last, which will give us 2x plus 4. So that is a factor of x to the 4th minus 8x. So do not worry if seemingly do not have factors. First, get the common monomial factor and then maybe we can factor it out completely. So let us have few more examples. So let us complete this one. So fill in the missing terms in the factors. I have here a cubed minus b cubed, which is equal to, correct, it must be the last term or the cube root of the last term, which is b. You're right. How about this one? What must be the binomial factor here? Correct. You simply get the cube root of m cubed as well as 27. So that is m plus 3. For this one, what must be the number or the term written here? Correct. It is simply the square of the last term. And then the last term is y on our binomial. So this will give us y squared. For this one, middle term. So we simply multiply the first and then the last. So that is simply 40c. Then lastly, we are left with trinomial. Yes, it's square of the first term, which is a squared. So this will become 4 plus, do not forget to change sign, 5, since a squared do not have numerical coefficient. So we have 5a squared g. Then lastly, we have the square of the last, which is 25g squared. See, it's so easy. So let us have this table. So let us complete this table. Let us find the factors, the binomial and the trinomial factors of this given. So I have here a cubed plus 27. So what is the binomial factor of a cubed plus 27? Yes, to get that, we get the cube root of a cubed and 27, which is a plus 3. How about for 1 plus 8x cubed? Correct? That is first term squared, which is 1. 1 squared is actually equivalent to 1. And then since this is sum, so the middle term of the trinomial is negative. And then we get the first term and then the last term. So that is 1 times 2 will give us 2. So we have 2x. And then square the last term, which is 2x. So we have here plus 4x squared. How about the third given? We have 27 minus r cubed. So what is the cube root of 27? Yes, the cube root is equal to 3. So we have 3, copy the sign, and then for r cube root of r cube, which is r. Let's have a few more examples. I have here 8a cubed minus 125b cubed. So the binomial factor is 2a minus 5b. What is the other factor? So to get the other factor, we simply square the first term, which is 2a. So that will become 4a squared. For the middle term, change the sign. So this must be positive. And then 2 times 5, that will give us 10. AB, correct? Plus, yes, it's 25b squared. Then we have x cubed, y cubed plus 64z to the 6. The binomial factor is already given, which is xy plus 4z squared. So square the first term, which is xy. So that is x squared, y squared. Since this is positive, we'll make it negative. Then multiply the first and then the last term or the second term. So we have 4x, y, z squared. And then for the last term, that is 16 z what? To the fourth, since we square 4z squared. How about this one? Let us factor completely. Number 1, b cubed is equal, or b cubed plus 64. So the first term, what is the cube root of b cubed? That is b. Cube root of 64, yes, that is 4. And then for the trinomial factor, we square the first term. So we have b squared. Yes, we must change sign. Then multiply the first and the last. So that will give us 4v. And then lastly, we have the square of 4, which is 16. Next one, we have 8 minus u squared. So what is the cube root of 8? Correct, that is 2. So we have 2 minus cube root of u cubed. Yes, that is u. So we already have the first and then the last. And it will be easier for us to get the trinomial term. So we square the first term, which is 2. 2 squared is 4 minus, or this must be positive since the binomial is already negative, plus 2u plus the last term, correct, u square u. So we have u squared. For the third one, we have s cubed plus 8t cubed. So we get the cube root of s cubed, which is s, plus cube root of 8t cubed, which is 2t. For our trinomial, square the first term. Yes, that is s squared. Change the sign. This must be negative. And then 2st. Since we got this by multiplying s times 2t. And then lastly, we square 2t, which is 4t squared. How about this? 8 to the 6 minus 125b cubed. So let us get the cube root of 8 to the 6. Cube root of 8 to the 6, we simply divide it by 3. So 6 divided by 3 will give us 2. So that will be the cube root of 8 to the 6 is a squared. Minus 125, cube root of 125b cubed. Yes, that is b, or 5b. Times the trinomial, which is 8 to the 4th plus 5 multiply 5a squared b, and then lastly we have 25b squared. We simply square the last term. So let's have the last one. p cubed plus 216 q to the 6. So cube root of p cubed, yes, that is p, plus, what is the cube root of 216? We have mentioned this one on our recall. Yes, that is 6. 6 q to the square, or q squared, since we divide 6 by 3. And then square again the first term. So p squared minus, do not forget to change sign. You multiply the binomial terms. So we have 6p q squared. Then lastly, we have to square 6q squared, which is 36q to the 4. So that is simply how we get the factors of the sum and difference of two cubes. So let us see what you have learned in this video by filling up the words or phrases in those blocks. So to factor the sum of two cubes, so for the binomial factor, determine the, correct, we determine the cube root of the first term plus the cube root of the, correct, the second term or the last term. And then for our trinomial factor, square the first term, you are correct, of the binomial factor minus the product of the, yes, first and second term of the binomial plus the, correct, square of the second term. Of two cubes. So for binomial factor, determine the cube root of the first term, right? Minus the cube root of the last term or second term, correct? And then for trinomial factor, what shall we do with the first term? Yes, square the first term of the binomial factor plus the, yes, it is actually the product of the first and the second term or the last term of the binomial plus the square of the second term of the binomial. So that's it for today. I hope you learn about factoring difference of two cubes. Once again, this is Mom Coren, your teacher for today. Have a good day, class.